The Sleep Revolution by Arianna Huffington. Welcome to my channel. My name is Samuel and I want to make self-growth normal. If you want to make self-growth normal, because I don't want to do it alone, then make sure to smash that like button. If you know nothing about Arianna Huffington, other than the fact that she co-created the Huffington Post, I don't know about you, but if you told me, hey Sam, Arianna Huffington just put out a book, guess what it's about? My last expectation out of maybe 25 or 30 would probably be sleep. Sleep. What a, dare I say it, book topic slept on. And yet I think a lot of media moguls tend to dream about big problems, big concepts that are affecting our world. So if you look around your life situation, your day to day, and you think about one thing that most of the people you see, including maybe even yourself, have some sort of a trouble with, if you had to come up with a list, if you had to, sleep would be somewhere in there at some point, right? So let's hit the snooze button on all those other ones. Checking out this book, I'm sure sleep will put all those other concerns to rest. Oh gosh, Sam, you're killing me, stop it. Well, if someone dies, may they rest in peace. This introduction includes, and I can't say I wasn't expecting this, numbers of Google and Instagram results. One of the first things you see when you type in "why am I" into the search bar ends in "so tired." There are like 40 million posts. This was at the writing of the book. I don't even know when the book was put out. I think it was like 2017 or something. I just looked and it came out 2016. She says in the book that there are 40 million plus posts on Instagram for the hashtag tired. I looked and there are actually 30. I mean, I also know that Google has, like a filter bubble or whatever. I don't know if she looked with an incognito window where it pretends that you have absolutely no search history at all. But she says, and this makes sense because I doubt this is just sleep that we're dealing with here. It's one of those things where we are more informed about it than ever, and we have probably more trouble keeping up with that information and utilizing it to a full potential than ever. We are living in a golden age of sleep science, revealing all the ways dreams and sleep play a role in decision making, emotional intelligence, cognitive function, and creativity. If you care about those things and not your sleep, believe me when I say you're in for a treat. Hashtag bars. It's super simple. She does cover a lot of topics, but there are only two parts: the wake-up call and the way forward. So let's go over those. And then at the end of the review, I'm going to drop like my biggest qualm about the audiobook. Chances are, if you've listened to the audiobook, you know exactly what I'm talking about within 5 seconds of listening to it. I'm also going to read some standout quotes from the book. I'm going to say who I recommend the book to. Oh, and also what books to check out next. The wake-up call begins with our sleep crisis. More than 40% of Americans, I wouldn't be surprised if these changed, whether they got better or worse, get less than the recommended 7 hours of sleep a night. Guilty. I get 6. I've been getting 6 for 3 years now. There are people who only need like 4. So this surprised me. Doesn't it matter most that you're just getting a consistent amount and it is the amount that works for you? Aren't we all like health-wise, aren't we just like snowflakes? If I get 7 hours of sleep, I find myself really not as well rested for some reason as if I get 6. Officers are starting to ask, have you gotten enough sleep when pulling people over? Studies have shown that lack of sleep, 17 to 30 hours, causes us to drive similarly to how we do with blood alcohol levels of 0.05 to 0.1%. There's also health and there's also money. Lack of sleep costs America over $60 billion in productivity every year and over $5 billion in Australia. Occasionally, except for like sleeping together, I guess, it's kind of like, why would she do this? She brings gender into it. Like, men don't really need as much sleep as women, and women find more trouble getting sleep than men. I don't know if it's that important as far as like informing us about our sleep crisis. At the same time, it's also kind of impressive how many angles she attacks this from. She's basically saying here that there are big issues that we've made effective progress in solving in our world that lack of sleep is now worse than. I didn't know what she meant at first by the sleep industry. Apparently it's the sleep aid industry. She says that the FDA admits that the drugs they are approving are not fully researched and understood. And people are taking these drugs now. Fully researched and understood. I get this, but like, what does it mean to be fully researched and understood, There has to be a degree to which they approve things reasonably. No product in the universe is ever fully researched and understood. But it doesn't make sense that instead of further exploring some medications, they're just approving more and having more being pushed into the market. She talks about caffeine. I love learning about caffeine. It's so cool. I don't drink it anymore, but there's a whole audiobook about caffeine and how it's like shaped America. I have to review that at some point. It's called caffeine. In sleep throughout history, we are only now coming out of the Industrial Revolution where sleep became another obstacle in the way of work. And as it turns out, it is insane the way we used to treat sleep. To be honest, I feel sometimes like some things haven't really changed here. I love how like unbiased she was able to kind of at least make herself sound throughout the book. This chapter reminded me of something Yuval Noah Harari would write. If he had a chapter in the 21 Lessons about sleep, it would be kind of like this. In The Science of Sleep, it's explained that tech advances allow the workday to never end, okay? Beyond the 4 stages of sleep, I just wasn't really feeling it with this chapter. In Sleep Disorders, I learned that sleep greatly uses up the brain in ways that if you don't get enough of it, there can be dire consequences. There's a point where you hear, we lie awake thinking about how awful the next day is gonna be because we lie awake thinking about how awful the next day is gonna be. The next chapter includes a swirl. Yes, that's right, I used that word, swirl of perspectives on dreams. The dream is a word of God. The dream is a reflection of conditions in the body that need attention. Dynamics in relationships, opportunities to be seized, dangers to be avoided. It is the conscious. She briefly tells stories of the most well-known things that have come from dreams. The most memorable ones for me were Let It Be by the Beatles and Google, of all things. I'm not a die-hard Beatles fan, but I hear that song probably 16 times, more likely than I'd like to. The Way Forward, we're halfway done, we're halfway done. This is what happens when I stopped singing and rapping and making music a year ago. I can't really sing anymore. For anyone who knows my reviews and is curious about the study-to-story ratio, by the way, this study-to-story ratio in this book is nutrageous. It is nuts and outrageous at the same time. This chapter, I just didn't get it. Some of these chapters I just didn't get. I didn't know what the purpose was. I very basically heard, not that this is a bad thing, but like, here are a bunch of things we are doing in the world to solve the sleep crisis. I don't know, like on a personal level, like how much is that? I don't know. The chapter is called Mastering Sleep. The next chapter is called Sleeping Together, where it talks about just a bunch of statistics and things. This is kind of where the men and women differences come into play as well. My favorite chapter, the one with easily the most like beef and juice, is called What to Do, What Not to Do. She talks about how to tackle sleep apnea, acid reflux, snoring, how to conduct together like an environment that's very sleep friendly. It's just this whole package of applicable advice. You can tell throughout the book she was like, I just gotta get every detail here. What about people who are reading this and they're like, what about people who are curious about like cat naps and like their effectiveness and like how to deal with jet lag and how to handle like differences in time zones, whether that's even necessary. I just gotta let them know like what's up. Get all those little things. And I also have to poke that like button. Just give it a little poke so we can spread more of these ideas and faster. The next chapter, Sleep and the Workplace, is just kind of like mastering sleep except in the business world. From Hollywood and Washington to hospitals and hotels, discovering the power of sleep. I love when authors use the words of famous people to justify their own viewpoints. It's like, here are a bunch of testimonials to the validity of my book and the points I'm making, fueled by money and social proof. The next chapter is the sports world's ultimate performance enhancer. Here's where you learn about the sports world and its adoption of higher amounts of time that are spent inactive. What doesn't make sense to me about some of this philosophy in this book is like, what about like the people who have succeeded more than almost anyone in the world at what they do, and they like have boasted almost about like getting no sleep. It reminds me of what Elon Musk was going through last year with Tesla and SpaceX, and like it was like the worst quarter of like his life, and he was working like 110 hours a week, and Arianna Huffington was just on his balls on Twitter just saying, you need to get more sleep, and he's like, this is not an option. We are the only auto company that was started since, I don't know, that hasn't gone bankrupt. Would Tesla be the most valuable auto company on the planet if it were not for his tenacity that quarter and not getting sleep? Despite what it did to his brain. And the next chapter is putting technology in its place, aka not on your nightstand. Overall, the book I enjoyed. I feel like I still don't know what exactly she was trying to accomplish with it, but for me, with the audiobooks, there's just one thing that butchered the whole experience. The 10-hour-long audio version of this book is narrated with this phenomenally thick, Greek accent. I had to look it up. I thought it was Indian at first. Regardless, it's not that it's hard to understand, but it's hard enough to understand that it actually adds effort to how easy it is to listen to the book. The only reason I could think of as far as why Arianna Huffington, of all people, would bother to have a very thick Greek voice narrating her audiobook is that she's from Athens, which I looked up and I heard about and I was like, pretty interesting. But still, most of the negative reviews, which were very negative, tore the audiobook apart. Specifically for the how thick the narrator's accent was. It's not even bad narration. Like, I got used to it after an hour or two, but I mean, I listen to like 120 books a year. But did she really think that people would like the audiobook because it's like narrated with a Greek accent? She didn't really consider that. She does not seem, just based on the writing in this book, like the type of person who would do that. I don't know. Quotes. We may be what we eat, but we're also how we sleep. I spent years getting educated. Now I don't have any energy to work. College is about making decisions. Big ones, like to sleep or not to sleep. Do not remain out of tune longer than you can help. Warren Buffett said this next one. When forced to choose, I will not trade even one night's sleep for the chance at extra profits. If you really want to see what a society values, look to the marketplace. Direction 1. I recommend this book for anyone who is just now realizing that sleep is really just not like something that they're good at or like that they get enough of, and their quality of their sleep is really not all that good and it's not good enough. But anyone who wants to know about the history of sleep specifically, I'd also recommend this book too. Direction 2. If you like this book, I recommend checking out Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. I've heard really good things about it. I haven't checked it out, but like I haven't checked out any books about sleep other than this one. Sleep is not, like in the book, it's kind of highlighted. That's not something that people pay that much attention to in terms of self-development, to the point where people are writing full books about it now. The Sleep Revolution by Arianna Huffington. There's a link in the description if you guys want to check it out and read the reviews. That and all the other books that I mentioned in this video if you want to check those out too. If there are any other books that you guys want me to check out and review, please let me know in the comments below. Please, please, please. Also let me know if you checked out this book and you liked it. But hey, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, because I don't get why people watch this far into my videos and they don't subscribe, but if you have subscribed and you want to turn it up just a notch and turn on that notification bell to get a notification every time I drop a new video, that would mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You can find me everywhere and I will see you then.